What is up, everybody? Welcome to an after stream podcast here on WhoFlung Gaming. This is going to be, I think, episode number 4. We just wrapped up another fantastic stream, and we're going to do a recap. And to join us in the recap, we have got Kay joining us. He's one of my Twitch mods, Kick mods, mod extraordinaire, shall we call him, and also a character in game. Say what is up to everybody, Kay.
What is going on?
So, what did you think of the stream?
I loved it.
That was pretty good. That was pretty wild. So, I wanted to hit on a couple of things that we talked about before we hit the record button, like a couple of scenes, and also the intro of what was it, Billy Yoder, not that green fucker. So I feel like I'm gonna lose it a couple of times here, but
probably.
Bringing that dude in immediately at the start of the thing, like probably less than 30 minutes in, I've already got tears rolling down my eyes. I was laughing so hard because I said, find the one that doesn't have horns.
that had me. That was probably one of the funniest bits of the entire stream. Like that could be its own hashtag.
It could. Find the one that doesn't. It's like, just scroll through all the ones that name Billy and find the one that doesn't have warrants.
Exactly. I mean, that would be pret't hard to find, but
right? Because I mean,
I'm sure they'd be able to find at least one.
Because doesn't Theo? Isn't Tommy and Bobby's dad named Billy?
Yes.
Okay, so it's gonna be a lot of confusion on the Billy front. And so I was like,
the spelling's a little bit off, so they'd have to sift through the spelling portion of it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I picked a random ass last name like Yoder.
Which no one's ever going to know how to spell, but that's all right.
I don't even know how to spell. I don't know how I spelled it. Like, I'm gonna have to CAD search my own character to figure out how you actually spell Yoder. Or how I spelled
write it down and glue it to your forehead or something.
Exactly, like because I was just RP and I was like, I don't know how to spell my damn name, but so because wrapping up the last stream was when Eddie and Tommy flew out for a vacation. Was I think yesterday's stream if I'm not mistaken, and so I was like, well, I got to have somebody new. And I opened up the CAD system to create a character, and I saw that I'd obviously at some point created this Billy Yoder guy. And I was like, well, what can Billy Yoder be? And I was like, man, let's go a little bit different. Let's go.
Oh, so it's funny that you say that. So I've actually pulled up your character here,
right.
Billy Yoder. And Yoder is, you've spelled Y-O-D-E-R.
Okay.
He's born in 2000, so he's quite young. He's 23 years old.
Yep.
He's out of work. Porn star. So that's good.
I'd forgotten about that. Like I spelled it corn.
Yeah, and he lives on the freeway. So.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Definitely a interesting place to live.
Like if anybody actually runs that and pays attention to his employment history, man. I got that because
times that I pulled somebody up and I've definitely chuckled at the creativity that some people have.
I got the out of work corn star idea because you can't say porn star on TikTok,
right?
And so I was like, well, you know, I was like, I want it to be funny, and this actually comes from an RL experience. I was with my ex-wife at the time. And I can't remember where we were driving. We were on the east side of town, and we were driving somewhere. And there was a guy, you know, with his sign on the side of the road doing his thing. And this is one of the few times that I've gotten a chuckle out of it. The dude's sign said "out of work porn star," and I died laughing. I rolled down my window and I said, "Dude, that is the most creative thing I have seen in a long time." And he's like, dude, I figured at least I can make people laugh if I'm asking for help. And me and the dude dined out for a minute and had a good conversation. And you know, it was, so that's where I got the out of work, you know, corn star. It was a merger of the two. And I've always wanted to use it for something. And I was like, well, hell, let's throw it in this dude's repertoire of stuff. And The outfits were similar to Eddie, but I would like to think different as well, because I think Billy has pants and Eddie doesn't.
He does, which was definitely a nice surprise. The accent though, like I was chuckling over the accent when I was watching the stream on my way home.
Right.
And it was quite.
Could you recognize
funny.
where I got the inspiration from? I don't know if they have the show up in Canada.
I don't know.
So I was getting the inspiration for the voice from Boomhauer, and that's where I got that from. And, did you guys have the show in Canada, King of the Hill?
Not that I know of, but I don't watch a lot of TV, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this is from my childhood era. I'm just gonna show my age a little bit by saying that, but
That'll be well before my time.
ouch. But there was a character there called was it Boomhauer or Bombhauer? Boom, something like that. It was a country guy that he had that sort of like southern twang to it, and I was like, perfect. Because Eddie's more of a talk like this, man, sound like he's been smoking for 30 years. And then Billy's more like, man, I tell you what, a little bit more of
hillbilly.
Say what?
A little bit more hillbilly.
A little bit more hillbilly, less smokery, a little bit more hillbilly. He's got the mullet thing going for him. And so I was like, man, let's go a little bit something different, start to slowly ease the audience away from straight up man talk like this and do a little something different, but something that they're sort of familiar to, could still fit in the Blaine County area. And so that's where sort of Billy came out, and then we left it open to the audience, to the chat, to sort of come up with Billy's backstory. And just I'm drawing from their inspiration the whole time. We went with the red Hellcat initially, with the 3 on the license plate for Dale Sr. And I never dropped the line, but I have the line hidden in my repertoire of comedic jokes. And be like, at some point I'm gonna throw in the raise hell praise Dale thing and like skate out from somebody's traffic stop or something like that, because I've got to figure out.
Been used on the first traffic stop.
Did I say it on the first traffic stop?
No, from the other day.
Are you talking about when somebody had Eddie stopped, or?
Yeah, and you managed to get away with 2 officers basically on top of you, and you stole their vehicle.
Oh, did I? I remember that when we were at the silos with Theo.
Yeah.
Did I say raise hell, praise Dale then?
No, you didn't, but that would have been
I should have. You're absolutely right. I should have. Man, let's talk about that for a minute, actually. So we're going to go back a stream prior to this one and talk about how utterly insane that escape was. The fact that, because what was it? It was down Chizansky Passage is what we ended up turning down.
Yeah, and then wound up at the silos there.
Yeah, because I pulled behind that wall and the cops just went straight past.
Classic Hollywood move. You pull in behind the brick wall.
That's the shit you see out of movies.
The 2 of you run out of the car and wind up going up towards the silos and eventually on top.
I think we could have hung out there for fucking hours and they'd have never found us.
You maybe could have until Air One kind of got a hold of you.
Was Air One up?
Not at the time.
They would have been. It would have been at some point.
They were scrambling it at some point, but I don't know if they ever actually got it up.
Did you see, as we were watching that scene go through, did you see me ducking in and out of the train cars?
Man, it was crazy. I mean,
dude,
the opportunities. I mean, they don't have keybinds like how you and I have it,
right?
Where we can quickly grab somebody, whether or not they're
because there's no way that I should have been able to get in that car. No way.
But like if they were on top of their keybinds and whatnot.
Yeah, there's no way. But due to the proximity that everybody was, there was an oddball's chance that he'd have grabbed the other guy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. For those that don't know what we're
thing that you didn't end up pulling them into the cruiser with you, but
for those that are wondering what we're talking about when we're saying key bindings, Kay and I both play with gaming mice. I think you have a very similar one to me. It's got like 12 buttons on the side of it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and
A little
so
intimidating.
we have a lot of our actions bound to our mice for quick usage. Like we've got cuff, drag. I've got canine, sling weapon, stuff like that. What do you have bound on yours?
I actually keybound cuff and drag right onto my keyboard. So O and P are one of the two. And then my current mouse that I'm using, haven't even plugged in the new one. But it's just a 2-button, and I just have my push to talk bound to that. But
okay. So I mean, it's just the intricacies of actually utilizing some of the finer tools of that FiveM and stuff possesses. And if they were in depth, and I'm sure some of them will be after this, there's no way I should have been able to get in that car and drive off last night. No way.
Because I think the guy was hung onto your door, if I remember correctly. Like you wound up actually pulling him.
Did I? Yeah, he may have grabbed the door, like tried to pop it open as I drove off, and I drove off with him for a split second. But there's no way I should have gotten away with that. None at all. So wrapping that into tonight's stream, I wanted to hit on how you came into that traffic stop that was on Procopio. What did they initially stop me for? So they said I was a 2-door Nissan driving north on Sonora. They said they clocked me at like 126.
Something
along those lines. And as a civ, we are allowed access to the police RTO. We just can't talk on it. We RP it out as we have scanners, which I dropped in the /me chat so that they knew I could have access to it.
That's right, yeah.
So I just gave them, I dropped an out of character /me saying FYI civs are allowed police scanners. So that's how I was able to hear them and know what they had said. And everybody that watched the stream,
scanner running for a while before they initiated the traffic stop, I guess.
Yeah, I was long gone, and it was a secondary unit that I passed going the speed limit that stopped me.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the guys that stopped me are watching this, you had the right car. You just gave out the wrong description, and because I was listening on the scanner, I was like, I got him. I'm out of this. Even if I have to call the sheriff himself down there, I'm out of this. There's no way they're taking me to jail. Ordinarily, they'd have taken me to jail for reckless driving and it'd have been done. 126 and a 65 is borderline double the posted.
Yeah.
But
in some states or whatever you guys call it.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they said chasing a black Nissan 2-door, I was like, boom, let me break eye contact because then I'm a different vehicle. And so that's why I ducked through the gas station, went behind, and so obviously I broke his line of sight. Then it was the secondary guy that actually stopped me, not the primary, because the primary actually was a secondary responder to the actual stop. Yeah. And he so the secondary that actually initiated the stop, and then the primary comes up. And I just immediately, I let them talk their thing, saying, hey, we stopped you for speeding, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no. And that's immediately when I hit them. I said, no, you were chasing a black Nissan, and I'm in a Subaru. I'm not the car you're looking for. And I just was persistent on that. Kept hitting him over and over and over and over, saying, I'm not the car you're looking for. You screwed up. You said the wrong description. Even when they tried to argue the other angle, I said, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, he's not the primary unit, so it's irrelevant what car he sees. It was the original guy that reported it as a black Nissan. Done. The guy that stopped me in good faith. Legit stopped me in good faith. I matched a suspect description, just not to the T. And once I pointed it out, man, they were grabbing at air, like, how do we get this scene back? And I'm like, guys, I got you. Better luck next time, and you hear that later on in the stream, right? I think you were about to hit on that. Did you hear it later on in the stream? They were about to make the same mistake twice.
Exactly.
And they paused, and that's when I laughed because I heard the pause. I know everybody else heard the pause, and they nearly gave out the wrong description twice.
Yep.
And I would have just done the same thing again. I'd have just broken eye contact, stopped, let them pull me over, and said, guys, you gave out the wrong description again. I'm not that guy. But
you're looking for a different vehicle.
You're looking for a different vehicle. It's not me. As soon as I heard that, I was like, done. Game, set, match, one. And they were all set to take me to jail for failure to sign a citation that shouldn't have been given me in the first place.
Exactly.
Until you pulled up, and I'll let you give your perspective or point of view from that.
Yeah. So when I rolled up, I was busy on a different kind of call. So I rolled up and kind of figured out what was going on, because there was quite a few units there, and I was just driving by and I was like, okay, there's a lot of units here. There's clearly something's kind of
So
going
you didn't
on.
actually know what it was before you pulled up?
No, I had no idea what was really going on.
Because I thought you were reacting to the stream and you're like, guys, you can't do this. You're going to get in trouble. That's interesting to know that you didn't have any idea as to what was actually going on.
Yeah, so I rolled up and there was, I don't know, 4 cars there already.
At least. I think there's certainly 3, if not 4.
Yeah, 3, if not 4. So I rolled up. Being that there's quite a few units there, I usually like to kind of go, okay, why do we have so many units on one call?
Right.
And that's when I can't remember who wound up pulling me aside to kind of give me the synopsis of what the original stop was for.
Right.
And it was at that point, after they gave a wrong description, I was like, guys, this is not a Nissan. This is a Subaru that the dude's driving. And I said, based on that alone, we can't even hold him for any longer. Yes, okay, it might have fell into a, I don't know, a close, but not
quite
correct description.
Yeah.
But at that point, I mean, technically you're free to go. If they find something else during the stop, okay,
yeah,
we can talk
exactly
about that. But based on the information that I was fed, we had wrong vehicle, and they really didn't have a kind of answer.
So it's like thinking it all over. It's like, so for those of y'all listening that are getting into RP, this is a way that you could have pinned that on me, and I'm going to give it to you now. The way you could have pinned that speeding vehicle on me is they could have rolled their dash cam, and I'm holding up, quotation marks with my fingers on the video. They could have rolled their dash cam through the /GME. And if they had rolled their dash cam through the /GME, I would have given it to them. I'd have said, yes, you've got the car. But they didn't. They didn't think to roll their dash cam. So based on the cards that were laid out, they had no choice but to let me go.
Yeah, and even at the time, I didn't even think about pulling dash cam, but I could have.
Yeah, you could have pulled dash cam, and even veteran RPers like us forget the tools at our disposal sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if they roll dash cam, I'm sunk. Because I'll give it to them. If they roll dash cam as a serious RPer, I have to give it to them because they would have caught me. Yes, you caught the right car, boom, 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 matches the description. They got me, but they didn't. So I didn't have to volunteer that information because they didn't use that tool at their disposal.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you guys stop me in the future, run your dash cams, do something like that. Run your dash cams, whatever it is. Think outside the box. Don't try and just use verbal jujitsu to get it out of me because,
people are starting to use the /GME, like the global chat, a lot more.
Leos are starting to use that a lot more, which is good.
Which is good.
Except for when y'all were chasing Tommy and Eddie the other night, and the people just came barging through that door. They didn't, and I hit on that. I think in the last podcast, they didn't pay attention to /GME, and because had they done that, they wouldn't have been able to come through that door.
Exactly.
It wouldn't have been an option for them, but and they got educated and they understood their mistake, and we moved on from it and had a great scene after that.
Yeah,
But
you almost went 4 hours, I think, that night.
Yeah, so it's I'm finding as the streamer, it is much easier to go 3-4 hours as a Civ than it is a Leo, because which is sort of a depiction of the life itself, right? Because I have a background in law enforcement canines, so I've done my fair share of ride-alongs and stuff like that, and it is 90% boredom, 10% adrenaline. And that is when you offer serious RP to the table, that is what I'm finding is the case, because I don't respond to everybody's 1081 after another. I don't do stuff like that. I strive for the what do you call it? I strive for the Civ interaction. And so it's a depiction of real life, whereas I can cause as much chaos as I want to as a Civ. Exactly. And that fits within the criteria. So it's easier, and so I think what will ultimately become of this is that we'll find a way and we'll do a balance of the two. We'll do an hour of Leo, 2 hours of Civ, or like we did tonight. We started out as Civ and we bounced.
It's almost too bad that we can't get both sides of, say, Eddie or and Deputy Do in at the same time.
Right.
Where they can go back and forth and kind of interact with each other, because I think that would be...
There would probably be a way we could do that in a pre-recorded video.
Yeah.
So it would involve you having both the character creation of Eddie and the character creation of Do, and switch perspectives. So it's possible to RP with myself. It would just require pre-recorded camera trickery. Sitting there thinking about it, it's like we could, if we got good enough at that and smooth enough at it, we could do, it live. It would just require, tricks of the OBS software and stuff like that, and transitions and stuff like that. And, I hear your panic button in the background, by the way.
Shouldn't.
Yeah, you can hit T/panic tune, I believe it is, and it'll leave the panic channel. Is an option. But so doing it as a from Eddie and Do's perspective at the same time is in theory possible. It would just require us evolving our production just a little bit. And going from there. So what else was major tonight? Obviously interacting with whoever the hell Theo was. I never caught his name.
I didn't either. So
I don't think he actually gave me one until right at the very end, the last 5 minutes, when we were kind of, pulling at the air to keep the scene together almost. We went back to Eddie and Tommy there for a minute. And, but the entire time I didn't know how he or what his name was.
And I didn't either. It came to a point where it was like you in the without the pants or anything like that. It's
Yeah. So I think if I'm not mistaken, Billy still doesn't have a citation and he still hasn't been to jail.
As far as I know, he has none of that.
Yeah, I think he's gotten a verbal warning a few times.
Yep.
But I don't think he's had either things happen to him yet. And I got stopped probably close to 10 times tonight.
Yeah.
There was a stretch there. I think in the first hour of the podcast, or the stream rather, I got stopped, I think 4 or 5 times.
Oh, at least.
And I got out of it every single time. The first time was easy. The first time I was getting gas at the gas station, and bless him, whoever the guy was way out of jurisdiction. And helped me actually figure out something about the car, because I didn't know that the license plate 3 was being used by another Civ, which apparently it is. It's being used by somebody, Harris something, I think, or something Harris, and but so his stop was legit. I just didn't know it, and
Yeah.
but the problem was is he was way out of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So for again, for people that maybe are listening or are watchers of the stream and don't understand the server a little bit, we have statewide jurisdiction, we have normal jurisdiction, and you want to tell them about the jurisdictions?
Yeah. So the way that the jurisdiction, I'll just pull up my map here.
Yeah, so people can see it, because if you're watching the video, you can actually see K.
So up in the, I guess what you can now see, I don't know how much.
Yeah, they can see the whole thing. They can see the whole thing.
You can see from the top of the screen basically to roughly just past, I believe, is it the split that's the
I treat it as the split. I consider the split sort of like the no man's land.
Yeah.
You know, for about 2 or 3 miles in either direction, and then obviously it goes.
Yeah, because I think the actual line is at the fuel station here.
The technical line is, I would say, is the fuel station, goes through the north of the city.
Yeah, and it pretty much chops the map right in half. It does cut around the city here, and then I believe
Chumash?
Yeah, Chumash is kind of another gray area, but I believe it is Blaine County's area.
No, Blaine County is Chumash for sure.
Yeah.
It's everything south of Chumash is LCSO.
Yes. Yeah. And then there is a line, I believe, halfway kind of in between, because LCSO kind of has a blended jurisdiction as opposed to like state and whatnot.
Right. So if you're watching the video and you're looking at his map there, essentially everything that's between the north of the city and like south of Harmony is sort of like mutual aid. You know, if it would primarily be Blaine County's responsibility, but that's sort of where the area of mutual aid goes into effect. You know, we can pick up a call if they're busy with whatever up in Paleto.
And we can back them up when needed and called in to their area.
So it's kind of like neutral zone, because we have let's see, go down the list of departments. We have Paleto Bay PD. We have Blaine County, State. So Paleto, Blaine, State, LCSO, and LSPD are the 5 main jurisdictions. Or the 5. Say it again.
I think there might be one more, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, you've got the staff do highway patrol, the California Highway Patrol.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was then.
So the staff, you would think they're part of state, but they drive California Highway Patrol cars. They wear the California Highway Patrol uniform. They're the only ones that can do it. So that's how you distinguish staff. If you get pulled over by a CHP car, that's a staff car, which is a little bit different than a lot of servers. A lot of servers use like green or pink lights on cars and stuff like that.
Yep. Most of them are like green strobing and
exactly.
White.
I kind of like it a little bit because it allows you to almost stay in character just a hair. Like if you're driving past it in a scene, like in a chase or something like that, it looks like a normal traffic stop.
Exactly.
So I kind of like that twist to it.
I do too, and I like that their uniforms are like pretty much spot on to a CHP.
Oh yeah, and I've been stopped by CHP before, so shout out to those guys. That was a whole nother story. Living in California a couple years ago, I drove a wide variety of very loud cars, because those people that have watched me for a while know I'm a bit of a petrol head. And I think at the time that I got stopped, I think I still had my Hellcat. Or no, not my Hellcat. I had my Mustang before my Hellcat. And it was very loud. In California, you had to make sure you keep your catalytic converters on your car, because down here in the South, you can straight pipe the sucker. You can cut the cats out, the mufflers off, the whole 9 yards. You can straight pipe it and be loud as you want. California, you can't do that. So I was coming onto the 5 southbound in San Diego, and I got stopped by a CHP, and he says, hey man, awesome car, sounds amazing, but do you have catalytic converters? And I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, you wouldn't mind if I checked, would you? I said, no, sir, no problem at all. Because, when it comes to I might be an asshole when I'm a civ in the game. When it comes to IRL, man, shout out to them. Dude was very polite with me. I was very polite with him. And it was, real quick and painless. And, it's just simple. He looked, he saw him, no big deal. But my car was very loud. So it stood to reason that, at some point I get stopped for it. But I gave him an Alabama license, and I was like, dude, I'm not from in-state. So he's like, you just visiting? I said, yes, sir, which was, not entirely true at the time. I was clearly not visiting. I lived in California, but, just trying a little bit of the trickery there. And it paid off in my favor at that time. But anyways, so going back to it, we had the guys that dropped the ball on the not using their dash cam there, and then Billy meets whoever it was, and that started another chain reaction of, I don't know how in the hell I got away. I think at least twice.
Oh, at least twice, yeah.
Because what was it? Was it you or the one that was out front of that mechanic shop in the gas station? Weren't you in Toledo? The one straight out front?
Yes.
So I don't know if you saw it, but the entire time I had my hands up in the car. The entire time that we were in that car, I had my hands up. I'm like, I'm not part of this. The dude kidnapped me, get me out, help. Obviously I was complacent to it. But from a trying to get out of the situation, there, my hands up, pin it on the guy next to me kind of deal. And your guys got a little trigger happy out there. I'm not going to deny that. They got a little trigger happy.
They did.
Straight Swiss cheese Theo.
Yeah, exactly. That'll come up in a staff
in a staff meeting, I'm sure. They straight Swiss cheese Theo. But I managed to verbal jujitsu out of it. The guys took me to the hospital and just dropped me off at the hospital. And
that only really fed off of the time that Theo's character wound up driving into my I think I was in my Durango at the time, because I was hollering at you through my my
you were in the, I think you were in the blacked out Durango.
Yeah,
and that happened, and I suckered the guys into taking me to the hospital, and I bailed out of the hospital. And then the other one was I managed to, Theo, I think, broke out of the hospital as well later on.
I think so, yeah.
Or no, he didn't break out of the hospital. He was being transported to jail, and he broke out of the guy's car somehow. I wasn't there to see it, so I don't know exactly how he did it, but I had my scanner going again, and I heard somebody's, because I was getting ready to set up and do a whole nother thing with Billy, something totally different, like road construction accident scene or something like that, and I hear that go out of the scanner, because people were asking in chat, what's happened to Theo, where's Theo? And I'm like, guys, I don't know. We separated, and I don't know. I'm not gonna push the envelope of being a civ that's allowed to do extra things because I'm with Theo, so I'm going to set up my own scene. And then I heard that go out of the radio, and I was like, bet, I'm going to go pick up Theo. And he was hiding in the woods right next to Toledo PD. He was right there. How Air One didn't see him, they must not have been using thermal.
They must not have, yeah.
Or what? Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I've got to come all the way. Where was I initially? I think I was certainly in Sandy. I was in Sandy. I think I got the dude to I got Mike to spawn in the yellow boom truck. And halfway down the highway, I'm like, I look around me, I see there's no Leo near me, no anybody else. I was like, fuck it, I'm switching cars. This is not going to get me there in time. So ordinarily I would, had there been anybody else around me, I'd have RP'd that out. I would have gone around behind a building or something like that, but there was nobody there, so I just I switched cars. Hopped in the black car, made my first attempt at picking Theo up, and he was literally postal 015 right next to Toledo PD. I drove down the dirt street, and he sends me a message in game saying, "I'm behind you, back up." A cop sees me and
you
recognizes me.
Driving right past him.
I literally drove right past Theo, and the cop sees me, and that was the point where they almost made the mistake of giving out the wrong description again. Because I took off at that point. The cop lights me up, I book it. And I'm like,
you then switch back into the Subaru.
No, I was in the Subaru. I was in the Subaru at this point. I was in the black Subaru when I did the switch in the middle of the highway.
Right.
I swapped into the Subaru, and as I get close, because I was trying to give them the hey, there's this black car in town again, something's up, whatever.
Exactly.
And the dude caught onto it, and nearly gave out the wrong description again, and that's when I bust out laughing because you and I both heard the pause.
Yep.
Of him. He's like chasing a black Subaru, and I was like, there you go. And at that point, I just floored it, and I was off down GOH. I pulled into the diner that is modeled after the Fast and Furious diner, and pulled in there and swapped back to the Hellcat and came and got Theo. That's when we go to the bank scene after I pick up Theo. We try and get the dude out. We're like, fuck it, let's try and get this dude out of the bank. He's robbing the bank. Let's try and get him out. And I'm like, dude, strip asshole naked. We'll put our hands up. We'll walk out the front door.
Yeah.
They Swiss cheese those two. And that better come up in a command staff meeting as well, because they had zero probable cause to Swiss cheese any of us. Yeah. Because our hands were up. Those two got in the car and tried to drive off, and they just Swiss cheesed everybody. And I was like, I'm sitting there for a moment with my hands up. I'm like, wait a minute, nobody's paying me any attention.
Mm-hmm.
I turn, run down the side of the bank. There's a car there. I hop in, and I drove right out the front of the parking lot. And I was like, man, fuck it. I don't know how I did that. You know, it's like, guys, that was right in front of you. And they had no clue. I'm listening to the RTO, and I'm like, they know nothing that I just drove right past them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you would have driven past them. Probably, I don't know, 8+ units.
Yeah, at least. And I was blown away. And at that point, I'm like, man, we're talking about this after hours. We are talking about this after hours. I'm going to get Kay involved at least, because he's involved in some of these scenes. And, you know, this brings us to episode 4 of the podcast. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. So, you know, I appreciate everybody that's listening. Stay tuned. I think the next episode, it's either 5 or 6, is going to have my dad featuring in it, getting his perspective of the idea is bridging the generational gaps between the last generation that grew up with no technology to what is my generation, which was the first generation to really grow up with it, and getting it from his perspective. So that'll be episode 5 or 6. Anyways, Kay, any last words?
No, I think that about
wraps it up. So, guys, yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. We'll see y'all in a stream or on the next podcast. Everybody, appreciate it.